The Morgan bloodline shows itself in the eyes, Alexander Morgan's mother used to say. Like storm clouds with silver linings, unmistakable, unforgettable, and impossible to hide. The memory struck without warning as Alex stood frozen mid-step on the rain-slicked sidewalk outside Westfield Cafe. Time seemed to stop around him, pedestrians blurring into indistinct shapes as his focus narrowed to a single point. A little girl huddled under the cafe's awning, her face tilted upward to meet his gaze. It wasn't just that she was alone in the downpour, small fingers clutching a worn red backpack. It wasn't her dark hair or delicate features that had halted Alex's purposeful stride. It was her eyes, gray. Not the common blue-gray or gray-green that people casually called gray eyes. These were true gray, steel-colored with distinctive, silver flecks radiating from the pupil like sunlight breaking through storm clouds. The exact shade and pattern that had marked Morgan's for generations. His eyes. A genetic trait so rare it appeared in less than 1% of the population. Yet here they were, looking back at him from the face of a child who couldn't be more than 6 years old. Impossible. 3 hours earlier, Alex had been Alexander Morgan, the 38-year-old CEO whose signature had just closed the Westfield acquisition, adding another $1 billion to Morgan Technology's portfolio with a single stroke of his Mont Blanc pen. To Alex, board members raised crystal flutes of champagne in the gleaming 42nd floor boardroom. The man with the Midas touch. Alex nodded, his own expression unchanged despite the celebration surrounding him. His gray eyes, always remarked upon by business journalists as penetrating or unnervingly focused, revealed nothing of his thoughts as he smoothly deflected the praise. The integration team deserves the credit, he said, voice measured and controlled. Davis, I'll need daily reports beginning tomorrow. Always working, his uncle Richard commented, approaching with practiced ease. At 65, Richard Morgan maintained the commanding presence that had guided the company through its darkest days after William and Elizabeth Morgan's deaths. His silver hair remained perfectly coiffed despite the 12-hour negotiation, his tailored suit unwrinkled. Your father would have been proud. Alex offered the expected tight smile at the mention of his parents. Richard's invocation of their memory was as predictable as it was manipulative. A tool wielded with surgical precision whenever he wanted to influence Alex's decisions. It's just business, Uncle Richard. Business that just made you another $1 billion. Richard's hand clasped Alex's shoulder with avuncular warmth that never quite reached his eyes. You should celebrate. The night is young. Tokyo team briefing at 8:30 tomorrow, Alex replied, already checking his watch. The ritual of work, its demands, its structure, its all-consuming nature, had long ago replaced any desire for celebration. Richard's smile remained fixed. All work and no play, Alex? This isn't what William and Elizabeth would have wanted for you. Alex merely nodded, immune to the familiar tactic after 15 years. I should go. As Alex crossed the marble-floored lobby, employees offered congratulations with cautious smiles. None approached too closely. The CEO's reputation for intense focus and emotional distance had created an invisible barrier that few attempted to breach. Financial magazines called him brilliant. Business competitors called him ruthless. Forbes had recently profiled him as the Silicon Sphinx, inscrutable, powerful, and seemingly carved from stone. The article had described how Alex had transformed his father's modest tech consulting firm into a global empire after inheriting it at 23, following the car accident that claimed both his parents. What none of the profiles mentioned was the emptiness. Home early, Mr. Morgan? His driver James asked as Alex slid into the Bentley's leather backseat. On acquisition night. Just drop me at Westfield Cafe, Alex decided impulsively. I'll walk home from there. Yes, sir. James raised an eyebrow, but knew better than to comment further. Though it's coming down pretty hard out there. The rain doesn't bother me. Looking through the rain-streaked window as the city lights blurred past, Alex allowed himself a rare moment of introspection. Tomorrow's business headlines would trumpet the Westfield acquisition. Morgan Technology's stock would surge. His net worth would increase by 9 figures, and Alex would feel nothing, the same hollow emptiness that all his success had failed to fill. The same quiet void that greeted him each night in his penthouse, a sleek minimalist space featured in Architectural Digest, admired for its clean lines and curated artwork, but never once described as a home. Westfield Cafe appeared ahead, its warm lights a beacon in the darkening evening. Alex had discovered it years ago, during his brief relationship with Catherine before his parents' deaths had upended everything. It remained his one concession to sentimentality, a place where he occasionally allowed himself to remember a time when success hadn't been his only companion. As James pulled to the curb, Alex spotted a small figure huddled under the cafe's awning. A child sitting alone on the bench outside the entrance, face turned expectantly toward the street. "Strange weather for a kid to be out alone," James commented. Alex nodded absently, opening his door. "Have a good night, James." Rain immediately plastered his custom suit to his shoulders as he approached the cafe. He was about to hurry past the child when some inexplicable pull made him pause. The little girl looked up and Alex's world shifted on its axis. Gray eyes. Morgan eyes. Looking straight into his. His mother's words echoed in his mind. Unmistakable, unforgettable, and impossible to hide. In that moment, Alexander Morgan, the man who had everything and nothing, felt something crack in the carefully constructed fortress around his heart. A fissure appeared in the wall he'd built 15 years ago, when he'd last allowed himself to feel anything beyond the cold satisfaction of corporate conquest. The child tilted her head, studying him with unnerving directness. "Are you okay, mister?" the little girl repeated, her voice cutting through the sound of rainfall. "You look like you saw a ghost." Alex forced himself to recover his composure, awareness of his surroundings gradually returning. He was standing in the rain, staring at a child as if she were an apparition. Professional instinct took over, the practiced mask sliding back into place. "I'm fine," he said, his voice steadier than he felt. "Are you waiting for someone? It's pretty wet out here." She nodded, still studying him with that unnervingly direct gaze. "My grandpa. He's late sometimes because of his bad knee." The child couldn't be more than 6, yet her composure and articulation suggested someone older. She shifted her position on the bench, and Alex noticed the backpack in her lap had a unicorn patch partially covered by a name tag. He couldn't make out the full name, but the first letter was E. "Would you like to wait inside where it's dry?" Alex found himself asking. "I was heading in for coffee anyway." The girl hesitated, clutching her backpack tighter. "Grandpa says I should stay where he can see me when he comes." "That makes sense," Alex nodded. "How about that table right by the window? You'd still be visible from the street, but out of the rain." She considered this with a seriousness that seemed beyond her years. Those gray eyes, his eyes, evaluating the suggestion with careful deliberation. "Grandpa also says I shouldn't go with strangers," she said finally. "Your grandfather is absolutely right," Alex agreed. "My name is Alex Morgan. I come to this cafe often. Maria behind the counter knows me." The girl glanced toward the cafe where Maria, the evening barista, was watching their interaction with curious concern. After another moment of consideration, she nodded. "I'm Emma," she said, extending her small hand with formal politeness. "Emma Sullivan." Sullivan. The name struck him with unexpected force. Something about it tugged at his memory. A thread he couldn't quite grasp. "Nice to meet you, Emma Sullivan," he replied, shaking her hand. "Shall we go inside? I think hot chocolate might be in order." Emma gathered her backpack and stood. As they walked toward the entrance, she stumbled slightly on the wet pavement. Alex instinctively reached out to steady her, and as she looked up to thank him, the cafe lights illuminated her face fully for the first time. The resemblance went beyond the eyes. There was something in the slight upward tilt at the corners. The shape of her face, the way she held herself. Echoes of features he saw in the mirror every morning. Inside, Maria greeted them with her usual smile. Mr. Morgan twice in 1 week, that must be a record. This is Emma, Alex said. She's waiting for her grandfather and could use something warm to drink. Hot chocolate? Maria asked Emma with a wink. Emma nodded, her solemn expression brightening slightly. With whipped cream, please. The special reserve it is, Maria said. And the usual for you, Mr. Morgan? Please. As Maria prepared their drinks, Alex led Emma to a table by the window. She carefully placed her backpack on the chair beside her, arranging it so the name tag was visible. E. Sullivan, written in careful block letters. Do you come here a lot? Emma asked, her gray eyes studying him with what could only be described as measured assessment. A few times a week, Alex replied, finding himself smiling slightly at her adult-like conversation. It's quiet, and the coffee is good. I like their hot chocolate, Emma offered. Grandpa brings me sometimes after my piano lessons. You play piano? That's impressive. Pride flickered across her features. Mom played. Grandpa says I have her hands. Alex noted the past tense. Played. Emma's expression sobered. She died when I was born. I never met her. I'm very sorry, Alex said, surprised by the genuine sympathy he felt. That must be difficult. Emma shrugged with the pragmatic acceptance only children can manage. I have pictures, and Grandpa tells me stories about her all the time. Maria arrived with their drinks, a double espresso for Alex and hot chocolate topped with whipped cream and chocolate sprinkles for Emma. Thank you, Emma said, wrapping her small hands around the mug. What about your father? Alex asked after Maria had returned to the counter. Something flickered across Emma's face, a shadow of uncertainty. I don't have one. I mean, I did, but he went away before I was born. She took a careful sip of her hot chocolate, leaving a small dot of whipped cream on her nose. Grandma used to say he didn't know about me, but she went to heaven last year, so now it's just me and Grandpa. Alex felt an inexplicable tightness in his chest. I'm sorry about your grandmother, too. Grandpa says she's with Mom now. Emma wiped her nose with a napkin, then looked up at him with renewed intensity. You have eyes like mine. The directness of the observation caught Alex off guard. I noticed that too. It's an unusual color. Mom had them too, Emma said. Grandpa says they're special because not many people have real gray eyes. He calls them storm clouds with silver linings. Something cold and electric ran down Alex's spine. The phrase was too familiar, too precisely the words his own mother had used to describe the Morgan family trait. That's a lovely description, he managed. Do you have kids, Mr. Morgan? Emma asked, the abrupt change of subject disarming him further. No, he answered, I don't. Are you married? No. Emma nodded as if confirming something to herself. Then she looked directly at him again, her expression suddenly intent. What's your mom's name? Elizabeth, Alex answered, bewildered by the question. Why do you ask? Instead of answering, Emma reached into her backpack and pulled out a small photograph protected in a plastic sleeve. She studied it for a moment, then turned it to face Alex. This is my mom, she said simply. Alex took the photograph, and the world seemed to tilt beneath him. A young woman with dark hair and striking gray eyes smiled at the camera, wearing a graduation gown in front of the university library, the smile that had once been the brightest part of his day. The woman whose name he had forced himself not to think about for 15 years. Catherine Sullivan, his college girlfriend. The woman he'd loved with an intensity that had frightened him at 23. The woman he'd left behind to save his father's company after the accident. The woman he'd promised to return to once things settled. A promise buried under years of responsibility and ambition. Your mother was Catherine Sullivan? He asked, his voice barely audible. Emma nodded, watching his reaction carefully. Did you know her? Alex couldn't tear his eyes from the photograph. Catherine looking exactly as she had the last time he'd seen her, eyes bright with hope despite their tearful goodbye. Yes, he managed. We were friends in college. Really? Emma's eyes widened. Mom went to Westlake University. Did you go there too? I did, Alex said, memories crashing through the walls he'd built around them. Catherine laughing in autumn, sunshine, studying together in the library until dawn, her playing Debussy on the piano in the music department after hours, her fingers moving with the same grace he'd just witnessed in her daughter. Their daughter? Emma, Alex asked, his heart pounding. When is your birthday? February 12th. She answered. Alex did the mental calculation immediately. 9 months after he had last seen Catherine, 9 months after their emotional goodbye when he'd promised to reconnect once his family's company was stable. My mom told Grandma my dad's name was Alexander, Emma continued, her voice dropping to a near whisper. And Grandma told me once that he had eyes just like mine, her gaze fixed on his, unflinching in that direct way that children have. Sir, are you my father? The cafe seemed to fall silent around them, though logically Alex knew the ambient noise continued. The hiss of the espresso machine, quiet conversations at other tables, rain drumming against the windows, but all he could hear was the rush of blood in his ears as pieces clicked into place with devastating clarity. Catherine's gray eyes, a genetic trait she'd passed to her daughter. Their daughter. His daughter. Before Alex could form a response, the cafe door opened with a rush of wet air. An elderly man stood in the entrance, leaning heavily on a cane, his face creased with worry. Emma! The man called, his voice rough with relief. Emma turned, her face lighting up. Grandpa, you're late. I'm so sorry, sweetheart, he said, moving toward their table with surprising speed despite his evident arthritis. The bus was delayed because of the rain. As the man approached, his eyes shifted from Emma to Alex, and his expression changed. Instantly. Recognition, then shock, then a hardening that transformed his entire demeanor. Emma, he said, his voice tight with controlled emotion. Get your things, we need to go. But Grandpa, Emma began, gesturing toward Alex. This is Mr. Morgan, he knew Mom. Now, Emma. The tone brooked no argument. Emma gathered her backpack, reluctantly, sliding the photograph back into its protective sleeve. Thank you for the hot chocolate, Mr. Morgan, she said politely. Alex stood, still reeling. Mr. Sullivan, perhaps we could talk. I think you've done enough, Robert Sullivan replied, his voice low enough that Emma couldn't hear. Emma, wait by the door, please. Once Emma was out of earshot, Robert turned to Alex, his face a mask of barely contained emotion. 8 years, he said quietly. Not a word for 8 years and now you show up? Mr. Sullivan, I didn't know, Alex said, finding his voice. I had no idea Catherine was pregnant. I swear to you. Robert's expression flickered between disbelief and uncertainty. She tried to contact you dozens of times. I never received any messages, Alex insisted. After my parents died, everything changed. I had to take over the company and... He stopped himself, realizing how hollow excuses would sound to this man. I should have tried harder to reach her, but I truly didn't know about Emma. Robert studied him for a long moment, seemingly weighing his sincerity. She has your eyes, he said finally. Catherine always said they would give her away if you ever saw her. Emma called from the door. Grandpa, are we going home? Robert sighed, reaching into his pocket and pulling out a business card. This is my address. If you're serious, if you genuinely didn't know, come by tomorrow at noon. We'll talk. His expression hardened again. But if this is just curiosity or guilt, stay away. That little girl has been through enough loss. Alex took the card, nodding, soberly. I'll be there. As Robert and Emma left the cafe, Emma turned back to wave goodbye. Alex raised his hand in response, watching as his newfound daughter, the very concept still a shock to his system, disappeared into the rainy evening. Alex remained standing, the business card in his hand, as the full weight of the encounter settled over him. Maria approached cautiously, concern evident in her expression. Everything okay, Mr. Morgan? Alex looked at her, then back at the door, then down at the card in his hand. No, he said quietly. Nothing is okay. But perhaps someday it will be. For the first time in 15 years, Alexander Morgan walked into the rain without worrying about his custom suit or the 3 meetings scheduled for the next morning. For the first time since his parents' death, something mattered more than Morgan Technologies. He had a daughter, and tomorrow at noon he would begin the journey of becoming her father. Alex stood at his penthouse window, Emma's question echoing in his mind. "Sir, are you my father?" Sleep had proven impossible. His last meeting with Catherine had been emotional but hopeful. They'd agreed to reconnect once his parents' company stabilized. But days turned to weeks, weeks to months, until reaching out had seemed impossible. And now this revelation. Catherine had been carrying his child during those crucial months. Dawn found him holding Robert Sullivan's business card and staring at Catherine's photograph, a digital copy he'd kept hidden for years. With trembling fingers, he called his assistant. "Rebecca, check our records from 8 years ago. Look for any calls or correspondence from Catherine Sullivan." "Sullivan?" Rebecca repeated. "May I ask what this is about?" "It's personal," Alex replied. "Clear my schedule for today and find me the best family law attorney in the city." By 9, Rebecca called back with findings that sent ice through Alex's veins. There were 17 calls from Catherine Sullivan over a 3-month period, she reported, all marked as handled by Mr. Richard Morgan. Alex's grip tightened on the phone. "My uncle, what does handled mean?" "The notation indicates he personally took the messages, but there's no record of them being passed to you." Rebecca hesitated. "And I found letters from Ms. Sullivan in the archive room. All unopened, all marked return to sender in your uncle's handwriting. Bring them to my apartment. Now." Within an hour, Alex was reading letters he'd never received. The first, dated weeks after their separation, was unmistakable. "Alex, I've tried calling, but your uncle says you're too busy. I need to tell you something important. I'm pregnant, Alex. We're going to have a baby." Letter after letter documented Catherine's attempts to reach him, her gradual loss of hope. The final letter broke him completely. "I've accepted that you've moved on. Perhaps your uncle was right, but I'll make sure our daughter knows you're a good man who simply made different choices. If someday she finds you, please be kind to her. She'll have my eyes, but I suspect she'll have your spirit." Tears streamed down Alex's face, the first he'd shed since his parents' funeral. Richard, his trusted mentor, had systematically kept him from knowing about his own child. Rebecca arrived with financial records that confirmed his suspicions. Shortly after Catherine's first attempts to contact him, Richard had restructured the inheritance terms, maintaining control until Alex either turned 40 or established a family, a clause that would have been triggered by Emma's birth. "He did it for money and control," Alex said, his voice hollow. "Mr. Richard Morgan has called 3 times already asking about your schedule," Rebecca added. "Let him wonder," Alex replied coldly. "I have somewhere more important to be." P. Sullivan. Residence was a modest craftsman house with a well-tended garden, a stark contrast to Alex's minimalist penthouse. This was a home, lived in and loved. Inside, Catherine's presence was everywhere, photographs covering the mantelpiece, her gray eyes watching from a dozen frames. "Emma's at her piano lesson," Robert explained, lowering himself carefully into an armchair. "She'll be back soon." As they waited, Alex shared what he'd discovered. Richard's interception of Catherine's calls, the returned letters, the financial motivation behind the deception. "That's despicable," Robert said finally. Front door opened and Emma's voice called out, "Grandpa, I'm home." She froze when she saw Alex. "You came," she said. "I promised I would," Alex replied. Emma approached cautiously. "Grandpa said you didn't know about me." "That's right," Alex confirmed, kneeling to her level. "If I had known, I would have been here. I'm very sorry that I wasn't." Were you and my mom in love? The question caught him off guard. Yes, he said simply. We were. This seemed to satisfy her. Can I show you my piano piece? Emma played a simplified version of Clair de Lune, the same piece Catherine had played the night Alex realized he loved her. When Alex gave her the locket with Catherine's photograph, Emma touched the image reverently. That's Mom, she whispered. I thought you might like to have it, Alex said. As evening approached, Emma surprised him with a tentative hug. Will you come back tomorrow? Alex glanced at Robert, who nodded slightly. Yes, he promised, after you finish school. The next afternoon, Alex arrived at Emma's school. Standing among the parents, he felt out of place in his business suit. Mr. Morgan? A young woman approached, extending her hand. I'm Olivia Chen, Emma's teacher. She mentioned you might be picking her up. Just meeting her, actually, Alex clarified. Emma was quite excited today, Olivia said. She told everyone her father had finally found her. Alex winced slightly. This is all very new. Children are remarkably adaptable, Olivia assured him. But they need consistency. Emma is a special girl, sensitive and perceptive. Their conversation was interrupted by Emma running toward him, her gray eyes alight with excitement. You came. I promised I would, Alex replied, crouching to her level. Over the next 2 weeks, a routine developed. Alex would visit after school, helping with homework and listening to piano practice. In the evenings, he and Robert would talk about Catherine and Emma's early years. Alex found himself turning to Olivia Chen for guidance, her experience with children providing a roadmap for his uncertain steps into fatherhood. Children measure love in time and attention, not gifts or grand gestures, she advised during a parent-teacher conference. Meanwhile, Richard confronted Alex about his absence from work. 3 board meetings missed in 2 weeks. The Chen acquisition hanging by a thread. What's going on with you? Family matters, Alex replied coolly. Richard's eyes narrowed. Family? You don't have family except me. That's where you're wrong, Alex said, sliding one of Catherine's intercepted letters across the desk. I've discovered I have a daughter. The one you kept from me 8 years ago. The color drained from Richard's face. I protected you from a distraction, he countered. A scandal with some college girlfriend claiming pregnancy would have destroyed everything we'd worked for. Everything we'd worked for, Alex echoed. Or your control over my inheritance. What would William and Elizabeth have wanted? Richard asked. Their son throwing away his future on an unplanned pregnancy, or building their legacy? Don't you dare use my parents to justify what you did, Alex said, his voice dangerously quiet. You robbed me of 6 years with my daughter. And now you'll disrupt the child's life to play daddy? Throw away everything you've built? The callousness crystallized something in Alex. I'm calling a board meeting tomorrow. I'll be recommending your immediate removal as CFO. That evening, Alex received an urgent call from Robert. I've had a fall. The doctor wants me to come in for tests. Emma needs someone to stay with her. I'll be right there, Alex said without hesitation. At the Sullivan home, Alex found Emma sitting anxiously while paramedics helped Robert onto a stretcher. Grandpa fell down, Emma explained, her voice small. He couldn't get up. Are you staying with me? She asked, vulnerability evident in her gray eyes. Of course I am, Alex assured her. As long as you need me. The evening was a crash course in parenting. Alex, who could negotiate billion-dollar deals without breaking a sweat, found himself challenged by preparing a simple meal and navigating a 6-year-old's bedtime routine. Will Grandpa be okay? Emma asked as Alex turned out the light. Yes, he said. He's tough just like you. Like us, Emma corrected sleepily. Grandpa says our gray eyes mean we're storm weatherers. Storm weatherers? People who can get through hard times, she explained, yawning. Good night, Dad? The word caught Alex off guard. He sat motionless, emotion tightening his throat. Good night, Emma, he managed finally. After she fell asleep, Alex's phone buzzed with urgent messages from Rebecca. Richard called emergency board meeting, presenting forged emails suggesting you're abandoning the company. Vote tomorrow 10 a.m. From his lawyer, Richard Morgan has filed for emergency guardianship of Emma Sullivan, citing Robert's health issues and your complete lack of parenting experience. Hearing scheduled tomorrow, 10 a.m. The timing was no coincidence. Richard was forcing Alex to choose his company or his daughter. In the quiet kitchen of the Sullivan home, Alex faced the most important decision of his life. The morning dawned clear and bright, a stark contrast to the storm clouds gathering in Alex's mind. Hospital corridors hummed with quiet activity as he sat beside Robert's bed, reviewing the latest medical updates. The tests had revealed more than a simple fall. Robert's heart was failing. He needed specialized care, experimental treatments not covered by his modest insurance. Emma slept curled in a chair by the window, exhausted from a night of worry. The silver locket with Catherine's photo glinted at her throat, rising and falling with each breath. Alex's phone buzzed with messages that grew increasingly urgent. From Rebecca. Board assembling. Richard has documents. Come now. From his lawyer. Guardianship hearing in 30 minutes. Judge waits for no one. From the hospital administrator. Treatment authorization forms require immediate signature. Deposit of $175,000 needed to proceed. Alex silenced the phone, his gray eyes, the eyes he'd passed to Emma, fixed on his daughter's peaceful face. In her features he could see echoes of Catherine, echoes of himself, the perfect blending of two people who had once loved each other deeply. Robert stirred, his weathered hand reaching for Alex's. "They're making you choose," he said, his voice barely audible. "Richard, the board, the court." "Yes," Alex confirmed simply. "What will you do?" Before Alex could answer, a nurse entered with Robert's morning medication. "Mr. Sullivan, you have a visitor, says she's a friend of the family." Olivia Chen appeared in the doorway, a small box in her arms. "I hope I'm not intruding," she said, softly, glancing at the sleeping Emma. "But I thought this might help." She placed the box on the bedside table. "Emma mentioned it yesterday at school. It's been in the classroom storage closet since Catherine passed. She asked that it be kept safe until Emma was old enough." Alex opened the lid carefully. Inside were dozens of envelopes, each labeled with milestone events. First, day of school, 10th birthday, high school graduation. A smaller box held trinkets and mementos, a pressed flower, a ticket stub from a concert, a small silver butterfly charm, and beneath it all, a letter addressed simply, "For Alex, if you ever find your way back to us." With trembling hands, Alex unfolded the pages covered in Catherine's familiar handwriting. "My dearest Alex," she had written, "if you're reading this, then somehow, against all odds, you've found your way to our daughter. I've tried reaching you so many times that I've lost count. Your uncle assures me you want nothing to do with us, but the Alex I knew would never turn his back on his child. So either you've changed beyond recognition, or something else is keeping my letters from reaching you." Alex's throat tightened as he continued reading. "I've made Emma a memory box. Little pieces of me for the moments I won't be there to see. The doctors say my chances aren't good. A congenital heart condition they only discovered during pregnancy. But I'm taking the risk because she deserves a chance at life, even if it means I might not be there to share it." Robert watched him silently, tears tracking down his lined face. "If someday you find each other, please tell her I believed in you both. Tell her that her father wasn't just brilliant and driven, but kind and loving too. Tell her about the night you waited in the rain to hear me play Debussy, about how your eyes light up when you solve a problem no one else can crack, about how fiercely you loved your parents. Tell her she has your eyes, and that means she's a storm weatherer, someone who can face whatever life throws at her and still find the silver lining." The letter continued, Catherine's voice so clear in the words that Alex could almost hear her speaking them. "I don't know why you never answered my calls, why your uncle returned my letters unopened. Perhaps Richard was right, and your new life truly has no room for us. But the Alex I loved would have wanted to know his daughter. He would have been an amazing father. A nurse appeared at the doorway. "Mr. Morgan, there are people looking for you. They say it's urgent." Through the hospital room's window, Alex could see Richard marching down the corridor, flanked by 2 board members and a man in a suit who could only be his lawyer. "Make them wait," Alex told the nurse, turning back to the letter's final paragraph. "If, by some miracle, you're reading this, then I was right to believe in you. It means you found your way back to her, to the family we should have been. I'll never know what kept us apart, but it doesn't matter now. What matters is Emma. Love her enough for both of us. Show her that some things are worth more than success or money or power. Show her what truly matters." Catherine had signed it. Simply, "Always, Kate." Alex folded the letter carefully, tucking it back into the box just as Emma stirred and opened her eyes. Gray eyes, Morgan eyes. "Dad?" she asked, the words still new on her lips. "Is Grandpa okay?" Before Alex could answer, the door burst open and Richard strode in, impeccably dressed in a tailored suit that somehow looked like armor. His silver hair caught the fluorescent lights, his expression a mask of false concern. "Alex, there you are. The board is waiting. This little domestic situation can wait." Emma shrank back in her chair, instinctively moving closer to her grandfather's bed. Robert tried to sit up, protective despite his weakness. "Mr. Sullivan," Richard acknowledged with practiced politeness before turning to Emma. "And you must be the child. Emma, is it? Your father has responsibilities he's neglecting because of you. That's enough," Alex said, his voice quiet but with an edge that made everyone in the room go still. Richard continued as if Alex hadn't spoken. "The guardianship hearing starts in 15 minutes. Of course, if you reconsider your position on the board vote, I'm sure we could work something out. Perhaps a regular visitation schedule? That seems reasonable for someone in your position." "My position?" Alex repeated, his tone dangerously controlled. "CEO of a global company, unmarried, no parenting experience whatsoever." Richard waved a dismissive hand. "Courts look at stability, Alex. What judge would choose a workaholic bachelor over a dedicated family member who's looked after the child for years? You're not family," Emma said suddenly, her small voice clear and direct. All eyes turned to her. "You kept my dad away from me. Grandpa told me." Richard's composure faltered momentarily before his practiced smile returned. "Children have such active imaginations. Alex, we need to go. Now." "No." The simple word hung in the air between them. "No?" Richard's smile thinned. "Perhaps I'm not making myself clear. The board is voting on your temporary removal as CEO. The guardianship hearing will determine who gets custody of the child. The timing is, shall we say, challenging. But sacrifices must be made for the good of Morgan Technologies." Alex looked at Emma, at Robert, at the memory box Catherine had created for the family she believed in. Then he turned to Richard, seeing his uncle clearly for perhaps the first time, not the mentor who had guided him after his parents' death, but the manipulator who had systematically isolated him, controlled him, and kept him from his own child. "You're right about one thing," Alex said quietly. "Sacrifices must be made." He stepped closer to Richard, his voice low enough that Emma couldn't hear. 8 years ago, you kept Catherine's letters from me. You hid my daughter's existence to maintain your control over my inheritance. Now you think you can use her to manipulate me again, force me to choose between my company and my child. Richard's expression hardened. "It's not manipulation, it's reality. The board meeting and the hearing are happening simultaneously. You can't be in 2 places at once." "I don't have to be," Alex replied. He turned to Olivia, who had been watching the exchange with evident concern. "Ms. Chen, would you stay with Emma for a while?" "Of course," she agreed immediately. Alex knelt beside Emma's chair. "I need to go take care of something important, sweetheart. Ms. Chen will stay with you and Grandpa. I'll be back as soon as I can." "You're leaving?" Emma asked, fear flashing in her eyes. "Just for a little while," Alex promised. "Sometimes adults have to fix mistakes they made a long time ago. Like when you didn't know about me." Exactly like that, Alex said, his throat tight with emotion. But I know about you now, and nothing, no company, no amount of money, is more important to me than you. Do you understand? Emma studied him with that direct gray gaze, the same penetrating look he'd used in countless boardroom negotiations. Then, with the simple trust of childhood, she nodded. Okay, Dad. Alex stood, facing Richard. After you, Uncle. As they left the hospital room, Richard's confidence returned. You're making the right choice, Alex. Family businesses require tough decisions. Your father understood that. Yes, Alex agreed calmly. He did. The boardroom of Morgan Technologies fell silent as Alex entered, Richard a step behind him. 14 stern faces turned toward them, expressions ranging from concern to disapproval. Gentlemen, ladies, Richard began smoothly. Thank you for your patience. As you know, we face an unprecedented situation. Our CEO appears to be experiencing some form of emotional crisis that has compromised his judgment. Alex remained standing as Richard took his seat at the head of the table, the seat that had once been William Morgan's, then Alex's, and now, somehow, his uncle's. Before we begin, Alex said calmly, I'd like to distribute some documents my team has prepared. Rebecca, waiting by the door, handed folders to each board member. Richard's expression flickered as he opened his. What is this? He demanded, flipping through the pages. Evidence, Alex said simply. Financial records showing systematic misappropriation of funds, intercepted personal communications, falsified documents, including the emails you claimed I sent regarding stepping back from the company. Murmurs spread around the table as board members reviewed the contents. Richard's face flushed with anger. This is absurd, he sputtered. A desperate attempt to distract from Alex's erratic behavior. Is it? Alex approached the projection screen, plugging in his laptop. Perhaps the board would be interested in the metadata from those emails you claimed I sent last week, the ones created 3 days ago but backdated. As the technical evidence appeared on screen, Richard's confidence visibly crumbled. Board members exchanged concerned glances. You're making a mistake, Richard warned, his voice dropping to a threatening whisper. Everything I did was for this company, for your future. No, Alex corrected. It was for your control, your power, your financial gain. The chairman cleared his throat. Mr. Morgan, Richard, I believe we need to discuss your immediate resignation. Richard's face contorted with fury. You can't do this. I built this company while he was playing house with that Sullivan girl. The crude dismissal of Catherine, of Emma's mother, ignited something cold and implacable in Alex. My lawyer will be contacting you regarding potential criminal charges, he said quietly. I suggest you retain counsel immediately. As security moved to escort a protesting Richard from the boardroom, Alex checked his watch. 9:45. The guardianship hearing would be starting soon. Ladies and gentlemen, he addressed the remaining directors. I appreciate your concern for the company's stability, but I need to be transparent about my priorities going forward. 1 week ago, I discovered I have a daughter, a child kept from me by my uncle's deliberate actions. Her name is Emma, she's 6 years old, and from this moment forward, she is my primary focus. He paused, letting the words settle. I am fully committed to Morgan Technologies, but I will no longer sacrifice personal relationships for corporate success. If that approach is incompatible with your vision for leadership, I understand. But I believe we can build something better, a company that values not just profit, but the people who generate it. Alex glanced at his watch again. 9:50. Now, if you'll excuse me, I have a guardianship hearing to attend. The chairman raised his hand. Alex, wait, the board hasn't voted yet. Some things can't wait, Alex replied. My daughter needs me. As he turned to leave, his phone buzzed with a message from the hospital. Robert Sullivan's condition critical. Return immediately. Alex paused at the boardroom door, facing the most profound choice of his life. The company his father had built, that he had transformed into an empire, hung in the balance. His position, his legacy, his life's work, all at risk if he walked away now. Yet in his mind, he could hear Catherine's words as clearly as if she stood beside him. Show her that some things are worth more than success or money or power. Show her what truly matters. Rebecca, Alex said, making his decision. Call my lawyer. Tell him I'll miss the guardianship hearing. Then get me back to the hospital immediately. As the elevator doors closed, cutting off the concerned voices of the board, Alex leaned against the wall and closed his eyes. For the first time in 15 years, Alexander Morgan wasn't thinking about Morgan Technologies. He was thinking about a little girl with gray eyes who had called him Dad, and the mother who had believed in him even when he'd failed them both. Alex rushed through the hospital corridors, heart pounding. The boardroom faded from memory with each step that brought him closer to what truly mattered. When he reached Robert's room, he found Emma clutching her grandfather's hand, tears streaming down her face. Olivia stood beside her, a steadying presence. "Dad!" Emma cried, running to him. "Grandpa's really sick." Alex lifted her into his arms, feeling her small body shake with sobs. "I know, sweetheart, I'm here now." Robert's eyes fluttered open at the sound of Alex's voice. "The hearing?" he whispered. "Doesn't matter," Alex said firmly. "I'm where I need to be." The doctor approached, explaining Robert's condition had stabilized but remained critical. "The experimental treatment we discussed, authorize it," Alex interrupted. "Whatever it costs." As Emma curled against her grandfather, Alex stepped into the hallway with his lawyer, who had been waiting. "I missed the guardianship hearing." "Yes," the lawyer confirmed. "But I submitted something on your behalf." He handed Alex a document. "The Catherine Sullivan Foundation, established last night with your controlling interest in Morgan Technologies. The paperwork was finalized at midnight." "How did you—" "Your instructions were clear. Find a solution that protects both Emma and your father's legacy." The lawyer smiled. "The foundation's bylaws specify the shares can never be sold or transferred, only used to fund work supporting single parents and children who've lost a parent." Alex stared at the document, realization dawning. Richard can't touch it. No, one can. And since 4 board members signed on as trustees this morning, the board meeting vote became moot. They've already voted to remove Richard permanently. When Alex returned to Robert's room, the older man was looking stronger, color returning to his face. "The doctor says there's a new medication they're trying," he explained. "Something experimental. Says I might have a few more years in me yet." Relief flooded Alex. "That's wonderful news." "They told me what you did," Robert continued. "With the company, with your inheritance." Alex shrugged slightly. It was the right thing to do. "For Emma?" "For all of us," Alex corrected gently. "For Catherine's memory. For what my father truly wanted." He sat beside the bed, taking Robert's weathered hand in his. "My father built that company to help people, not just generate wealth. Somewhere along the way, that vision got lost." Emma climbed onto his lap, her gray eyes, his eyes, studying his face. "Does this mean we can be a family now? You and me and Grandpa?" Alex held her close, his heart full beyond measure. "Yes, Emma. That's exactly what it means." The weeks that followed brought changes that would have seemed impossible just a month earlier. As Robert's health gradually improved with the experimental treatment, Alex found himself navigating a new reality. One where business calls were scheduled around Emma's piano lessons, where board reports shared desk space with science fair, projects about butterfly metamorphosis. Richard had not gone quietly. News of his removal from Morgan Technologies had triggered a media frenzy, with business journals speculating wildly about the future of the company. When a particularly aggressive reporter cornered Alex outside Emma's school, demanding to know if his personal crisis would impact shareholder value, Alex surprised himself with his answer. "If by personal crisis you mean discovering that my former CFO deliberately kept me from knowing I had a daughter, then yes, it's had an impact," he said calmly. "It's reminded me of what my father intended when he founded this company, to create something that serves people, not just profit margins." The reporter blinked, clearly unprepared for such candor. "And the Catherine Sullivan Foundation? Critics are calling it an emotional decision that puts the company at risk." My father once told me that the true measure of success isn't what you build, but who you become while building it, Alex replied. I'd forgotten that lesson for a long time. My daughter helped me remember. That quote made the front page of the business section, alongside news that Morgan Technologies stock had risen 2 points following the announcement of the foundation's first initiative, a technology accessibility program for single-parent households. As autumn turned to winter, Alex made another significant decision. The penthouse that Architectural Digest had featured, with its minimalist design and perfect emptiness, was sold. Instead, Alex purchased his childhood home, a spacious colonial that had stood vacant since his parents' deaths. For the first time in 15 years, he walked through rooms that held memories of a time before success had become his only companion. Emma explored the house with wonder, especially delighting in the discovery of Elizabeth Morgan's piano in the sunroom. "Grandma's piano?" she asked, running her fingers reverently over the keys. "Yes," Alex confirmed. "My mother played just like your mom." "Just like me," Emma added confidently. Robert moved in once he was released from the hospital, occupying the ground floor guest suite. Initially hesitant about accepting Alex's invitation, his resistance had crumbled when Emma presented him with an elaborate drawing of the three of them labeled, "Our Family." The renovation of the house became a family project. Emma selected colors. For her bedroom, butterfly blue she called it, while Robert contributed his woodworking skills to restore the original banisters and crown molding. Each evening, Alex would return from the office, always by 6, a boundary he now maintained religiously, to find another corner of the house transformed from an empty shell to a living home. Olivia Chen became a frequent visitor, initially to help Emma adjust to her new surroundings, and later because her presence had become something both Alex and Emma looked forward to. Her practical wisdom and genuine affection for Emma formed the foundation of a relationship that gradually deepened into something more. The first time Alex kissed her was on Christmas Eve, after Emma had finally fallen asleep in eager anticipation of the following morning. They had been wrapping presents in the living room, and Olivia had a smudge of tape on her cheek that Alex couldn't help but reach out to brush away. "Thank you," he said softly, "for helping us become a family." Olivia's smile was worth all the billions he'd ever earned. "You were already a family," she replied. "I just helped you see it." By spring, the Catherine Sullivan Foundation had funded support programs for over 200 families. Alex had stepped back from day-to-day operations at Morgan Technologies, taking the role of chairman while a capable CEO, one who shared his renewed vision for the company, managed operations. The change allowed him to be home when Emma returned from school, to attend every piano recital and science fair, to be the father Catherine had believed he could be. Richard, facing mounting evidence of financial misconduct, eventually accepted a plea deal, significant restitution payments, and a ban from serving as an officer in any public company. The man who had once loomed so large in Alex's life now seemed smaller, diminished by the revelation of his true character. "He called me yesterday," Robert told Alex one evening as they sat on the porch watching Emma chase fireflies in the twilight. "Wanted to talk to Emma." Alex's jaw tightened. "What did you tell him? That when she's older, she can make that decision for herself," Robert replied. "But for now, our job is to protect her." Our job. The simple phrase encompassed the partnership that had developed between the two men, a shared commitment to the child they both loved. 1 year after the rainy evening when Alex had first seen those gray eyes that matched his own, he stood in the backyard of his now fully renovated childhood home. Butterflies danced between carefully planted milkweed and butterfly bushes. Emma's science project expanded into a passionate hobby with Robert's enthusiastic gardening assistance. "Dad," Emma called from the patio. "Come quick, it's happening." Alex joined her at the butterfly habitat they'd built together. Inside, the final monarch chrysalis was opening, its inhabitant slowly emerging, wings gradually unfurling in the dappled sunlight. "It's beautiful," Emma breathed, watching the transformation with wonder. "Yes, it is," Alex agreed, though he was looking not at the butterfly but at his daughter's rapt expression. The doorbell announced visitors arriving for Emma's 7th birthday celebration. Rebecca, now executive director of the Catherine Sullivan Foundation, Maria from the cafe who had become a family friend, and Olivia, who now wore a simple engagement ring on her left hand. As they gathered around the butterfly habitat, Alex felt a contentment he'd never known before. The company continued to thrive under its new direction, but more importantly, he worked strictly reasonable hours and never missed Emma's school events or their nightly bedtime ritual. "Look," Emma whispered as the monarch took flight, circling, their heads before landing briefly on her shoulder. Mom sent it to say hello. Alex exchanged glances with Robert, both men smiling at her innocent certainty. The small garden party that followed was everything corporate galas were not. Genuine, warm, filled with laughter. Emma blew out her candles with fierce concentration, then announced she'd wished for more butterflies and more family. A wish safe to reveal, because it's already coming true. Her eyes flicked meaningfully toward Olivia, and Alex realized with a start that Emma had figured out their engagement before they'd had a chance to tell her. The perception that had once unnerved him now filled him with pride. His daughter missed nothing. After the guests had gone and the cake had been reduced to crumbs, Robert handed Alex a small box. "Catherine made this for Emma's 7th birthday, before we lost her." Inside was a letter and a small silver butterfly charm for Emma's locket, the perfect symbol of transformation. "She made boxes for several milestone birthdays," Robert explained. "Said she wanted to be part of Emma's life even if she couldn't be there in person." That evening, after Emma had opened Catherine's letter with solemn reverence and added the butterfly charm to her locket, Alex sat on the edge of her mattress for their nightly ritual. "Story or talk?" he asked. "Talk," Emma decided. "Tell me about Mom again. The day you met her." Alex smiled, settling back against the headboard. "It was raining," he began, as he always did. "Much like the day I met you. I was hurrying across campus late for class when I literally ran into her outside the library. Her books went everywhere and I felt terrible." Emma listened with the contented expression of a child who knows she is cherished, secure in the eye. Knowledge that tomorrow would bring another day with the father, who had found her against impossible odds. As she drifted toward sleep, she murmured, "I'm glad you saw my eyes that day at the cafe." "So am I, sweetheart," Alex whispered, his heart full. "More than you can possibly know." He sat there a moment longer, watching his daughter sleep, remembering the empty man he'd been just 1 year ago. The man who had everything and nothing. Now with less money but infinitely more joy, he understood what truly mattered. Outside her window, stars glittered in the clear night sky. Alex imagined Catherine among them, watching over the family that had finally, after so many years, come together at last. Thank you so much for staying with us until the end of this emotional journey. If you enjoyed the story of Alex and Emma, please hit that like button and subscribe to our channel for more heartwarming family stories that will touch your soul. Don't forget to turn on notifications so you never miss our new uploads. Share this video with someone who might need a reminder about what truly matters in life. What was your favorite moment in Alex and Emma's story? Let us know in the comments below. See you in our next video.